Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
My name is Bobby Moore, and I'm an alcoholic. Good morning. I made some notes because once I start talking, I forget to thank some people. I want to thank the committee for asking me to come down, and Jay for making the connection with me, Randy who picked us up at the airport, the excellent speakers. God, Jay, you touch me, man. You touch me. Lee, it's the language of the heart. You know, and as I listen, Johnny, I've heard before, the Al-Anon lady, I get a lot of that. I'm married to one, you know, so. What can I say? Johnny is great, but it's the language of the heart, and it doesn't matter gender or color. Every one of the speakers I heard this week, I could identify. And that's what it is. That's what we speak here, the language of the heart. The Cleveland connection that I have here, people that I know and love very much, sitting in the audience, my Cleveland friends. Hey, come on. And the Akron connection, there are some people from Akron here. I saw them out there, James and their buddies. Miss Hester and Harry, God bless you. I fell in love. Everywhere I go, I meet somebody. Met a nice little lady down in North Carolina somewhere, but you, I love you and your husband. Happy belated birthday, which was Thursday. Friday was Betty's and I 21st wedding anniversary. And we celebrated it here. All right, did I get everyone? I'm getting old. You know, and my wife sits on the front row. I was at Ponderson, you know, and she's sitting there, she's doing like this, and she's pointing, and finally I look down and my fly's open, you know. So I sit up here right before I got up, I zipped up, you know. I want to thank my wife for coming with me because I don't think it's easy. We've had our ups and downs, and anyone who's married, you know that. Thank God that we work 2 fellowships, 2 programs, and have a God in our lives. And you're going to hear a little bit about that. But before that, and that's what we're going to deal with this morning, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because I come out, I don't dress it up. You know, I don't clean it up. Cleveland will know what I say here tonight is what you get in Cleveland. I come here hating. Not only people of other colors, I hated, and God was at the top of the list. And there was some talk about folk hating their dad. Hated my daddy. Hated him with a passion. And thank God for Alcoholics Anonymous, because I took care of my mother sober when she died of cancer, which put some more hate in me. I'm angry at the big fella up there. But I had to take care of my daddy in sobriety. And I remember my daddy telling me during my drunken days, because I had a dirty mouth, I had a nasty mouth. I'm a street person, I'm a wino. I know some of you ladies are winettes, but I'm a wino. Oh, you drank wine, come on. Until they go out, you know, you take them out. What are you drinking, dear? Oh, I drink scotch, you know. Didn't I see you with a Wild Irish Rose bottle last night? Oh, my God. Come here hating. Come here hating. And I remember walking into one of the bigger groups over there in Cleveland, Don Cassini. He's older than God, you know, and Don is one of the older members there at the archives there in Akron, Ohio. And I stumbled in that meeting because I would always go where my sponsor was. And I went to that meeting. A bunch of old codgers were there, but they had a lot of old timers at the meeting. And I remember I'm sitting there with Salvation Army clothes on, and I just gotten sprayed for bugs at the city mission. Now, you really want to think you grand and arrive. You get sprayed for bugs, that put everything in its proper perspective. Really does, you know. Anytime I talk and tell my story, there's no way I can get grandiose. You know, I've grown up in Alcoholics Anonymous. I've been back to school, yes. But it is in remembering that I stay sober. And I'm going to talk about me. I'm not going to talk about what it was like, what Bobby Moore was like, what happened to Bobby Moore, how I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, and what I do to stay here. I went to that meeting that night, and a bunch of old codgers there, and this one stood up and said, "Isn't it wonderful to be sober?" You know. And I'm sitting on the front seat. I always sat on the dummy row. And I'm sitting there with Salvation Army clothes, and nobody wants to touch me because I look sick, you know, I look bad, you know. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, hell no, it ain't wonderful to be sober. You know, I've been on the streets of Cleveland, I've done everything but died. And I don't stand here and say I did everything but. I don't say thank God for blackouts. I ain't in no blackout when I need to steal your money. I may go in a blackout after I get drunk, after I steal your money. But before, I'm not in a blackout. And everything that I said I'd never do, everything, I had crossed off that list when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous. I'd done everything. Stole from people, slept with people I could not stand. It is in remembering that I stay sober. So my dear ladies and my dear sirs, if you didn't have to sell your body for your drug of choice, if you didn't have to sleep with somebody or steal from somebody, thank God. But for the grace of God, but for the grace of God, an alcoholic male or female will do what he or she has to do to get what they have to do. I don't care. I got to get drunk. I don't care about you and nobody else. I was born there in Birmingham, Alabama, and I was born when black wasn't beautiful. I ain't like being black. I ain't want to be nobody else, but I didn't want to be black. Bad time for black folk, really was. I grew up at the time it was very bad for black folk. You know, the Ku Klux Klan used to march through our community and kept us in fear. And I was in Minneapolis, Minnesota at the Gopher State Convention, and I remember telling that story. And I talked about the Ku Klux Klan marching through our community and keeping us in fear, and how I began to develop hate at a very young age. And I remember I finished, and all these people were shaking my hand, and out of the corner of my eye, there's a young little white fella trying to get my attention. And he leans over and says to me, "Bobby, I used to be in the Klan." And I stopped shaking their hand. I said, "Hey, you come here." And I went over in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and embraced a little white fellow who said he was a former member of the Ku Klux Klan. We make a difference in Alcoholics Anonymous. We make a difference. I don't hate no more. And where God is in my life where he was not before, I love, I care, I give instead of taking. And someone said at that meeting this week, thank you. Thank you. Someone said, one of the speakers talked about maximum service. I found out what I was meant to do. I found out I had a purpose in life. And it's just not from here, from this podium. And anybody know me in Cleveland, I go to the nursing homes where the old timers are sick. I go to see people. I send beautiful cards. I go visit. I take meetings to members of Alcoholics Anonymous who can't get out. That's carrying the message. So if you don't do some stuff like this, and you don't run around the country like a lot of us do, then there's a lot of service work that you can do right there in your community where two or more get together. That's a meeting. I had an old time, two or more, you get together. I had an old time with about 35, 40 years and was dying. And I'd call Oscar, and we'd get on the phone. I had a three-way, and I had another sick one named Helen, and I hook up the three of them, and we talk, and I sit there, and I suck up all this knowledge from these two old codgers. And when they finished talking, I said, "Okay, guys, let's say the serenity prayer. We've had a meeting. So where two or more get together, that's a meeting. And I get here, I'm hated. But it wasn't like that. I was born in Birmingham, Alabama, and I told you about not liking being black because of the horrible things. I was raised by my grandmother, and my mother got pregnant with me when she was about 12 or 13 years old. And I remember my grandmother saying, you don't bring bastard babies into the world. Now, that's no offense to no one who has children out of wedlock today. Today, it's different. This is my story. And back then, you did not. My two grandparents get together. I'm in my mother's belly. They have a wedding. 4 boys later, my dad is split. I thought he abandoned us. And the incredible part about that, I would see my father come back here, join the Army, and he'd come in his uniform, you know, and my mother would be all over him. And then she'd tell us what a horrible man he was. And then I started drinking, and I'd call him and remember the things my mother would tell me, how horrible he was. I didn't know him, didn't know the man. And thank God for Alcoholics Anonymous, because before he died, I got to know him. I got to know the man. And I remember when my daughter was born, and I took him down to see her grandfather, and we developed a relationship. And I wrote my dad a letter, and I said, we can't go back and be son and daddy again, but we can be friends. And my daddy calls me back, and he said, oh, by the way, I read your letter. And not only are you my friend, but you are my son, and I love you. And that was the first time. I'm an old man. I got a daughter. I'm married again. That I heard my daddy say he loved me, and I couldn't stop crying. I just couldn't stop crying. The tears just kept coming. I thought I hated that old man. And had it not been for me being with you in Alcoholics Anonymous, I would not have bonded. I would not have made a relationship. And I developed a love for him, and I took care of him and was glad I was able to do that. You know, I went to that Baptist church there in Birmingham. I sang gospel music and taught Sunday school out there, Zion Star Baptist Church, baptized by Reverend Martin, you know. And when I get to the streets of Cleveland and I'm doing my thing in Cleveland, you know I'm going to hell. Because in that church, you know, if you drank the alcohol, you were going to go to hell. You smoked cigarettes, you were going to go to hell. You had sex and wasn't married, ooh, you going to burn in hell. So I'm doing all of the above and more. We're going to have a good time on the way to hell. I'm going to take a six-pack to the devil. We're going to party in hell, you know. I'm going to burn up some people that done hurt me. I had my first drink, I guess, about 12 or 13 years old. Corn liquor, if you ever come out of the South. Joe Louis whiskey, they call it. It'll knock you down 400 proof. With some kids my grandmother said, stay away from. Sonny, they're no good. They don't go to school. They disrespect elderly people. They don't go to church like you. And I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to get with these kids. I got drunk with these kids. They brought me home and dumped me on the porch, and they ran. They knew my mother. They knew my mother. And a couple of things happened to me, and I've gotten old. But it's like yesterday. They ran. My mother walked out on the porch, and she saw me, and education was going to be out. I told you it was horrible times for black folk back in the day. It was horrible times for us, but they were good times. But it was that saying, the best of the worst of times. And my mother did what she did best. She broke a broom over my head. She ran in the house to get a gun. Now, at 12 years old, I'm standing up there. I get sober real quick, yeah. My mother said something to me that I'll take to my grave. Sonny, before I see you like this, I'd rather see you dead. 12 years old meant nothing. 30, 35, and I'm walking the streets of Cleveland doing anything. Now, you can let your mind run rapid. You want me to steal for you? Give me a drink. You want me to lie for you? Give me a drink. You want me to make love to you and I hate your guts? Give me a drink. Alcoholism. And don't judge me. I will not be judged by you. My story. Alcoholism, that a liquid makes you and takes you to places you don't want to go, make you become a person you do not want to be. And somewhere inside of us, Somewhere inside of us, I knew I had some kind of goodness. I was taught right. I read the Bible. I went to church. I knew God loved me. But when I start drinking and doing what I'm doing, you don't go to heaven doing the things I'm doing. And I just didn't believe God looked down favorably on me. Thank God he thought differently. And all the times that I didn't die, Johnny talked about some stuff, but baby, I know there's a God. I know nobody can tell me it isn't. And even when I wasn't talking to God and I'm angry and I'm not atheist, I'm not agnostic, I know he's up there, but he's not looking favorably on me. I know that, you know. And I would sit there and I would just, in a total disarray. I don't know which end is up. I remember I heard a lady out of New York City say, I didn't know. And now don't you take what makes me okay. And that's what Alcoholics Anonymous wanted to do, to take the liquid that made me okay. Because when I'm not okay and I drink, I become okay. You know, I got drunk and I graduated from high school and honor student, most likely to succeed. Best looking dude in the class, gotta say that. Hey, when you got it, you flaunt it, baby. Stuff started happening to this little curly-haired boy. It shouldn't have happened. If you hadn't walked in my shoes, you don't know why I act the way I act. Sort of like I sponsor dudes been in the joint. And Macho Man go to the penitentiary, he might have got gang raped in the joint. He cannot come out and tell you what's wrong with him. Don't you dare look at him wrong. Don't you dare step on his foot. Sponsor a dude named Mark there in Cleveland. And Mark tells a story, spit shining his shoes on a Friday night, going out, sticking his foot out in the aisle so you can step on it. He don't know you, don't want to know you, so you can step on his feet so he can smash you in the face with a glass of booze. The height of anger, the height of resentment, the height of hate. You ain't walked in my shoes, you don't know why I act like I act. And stuff started happening to this little curly-haired boy. Shouldn't have happened by the hands of some people. Went to school with my mom. My mom died not knowing they did what they did to me. But I started stuffing at a very young age. I cannot tell nobody this. Took me 10 years in Alcoholics Anonymous to talk about the stuff. So if you're sitting out there and you haven't dealt with it, if you're sitting out there and trying to wrestle with it and wrestling in this program, trying to stay sober or to keep your sanity, I'm saying that you can. Trust this program, trust the process, listen to your sponsor, find a God of your understanding and let go. And that's a gradual process, because somebody said, turn it over to God. It's a process. And I worked, it took me 10 years to verbally say it, to verbally verbalize it in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. We do this in a general way, but it was freedom for me. And that's what Alcoholics Anonymous mean to me, a program of freedom and a program of dignity. I would tell you about that ugly stuff that I did. I don't live like that anymore. You know, I graduated from high school. I go to Chicago at 17. I'm hanging around rhythm and blues singers and gospel singers. And, ooh, the gospel singers really know how to party. I'm about 6, 7. Ooh, they drink good, baby. Praise the Lord, hallelujah, and be high. I sang gospel with my pastor's daughters. I had to sing gospel with my pastor's daughters. I get to Chicago, and I think I'm grown. I'm only 17 years old. I'm sitting in clubs, and I'm going to joints where musicians are telling me how good-looking I am. And I have arrived. You know, my mother's in Detroit with her new husband, and I go back home to Granny, and she said, you going to college? Been in school too long. I felt the urge. I want to party some more, baby. And my grandmother said, well, you get a job. And I got a job. And if there were a time I drank successfully, was during that period of time. Now, for a budding alcoholic and an alcoholic in the making, you just can't stay right there on mellow, where you say the right thing, you make the right moves, you dress the right way. I'd always have one too many. And when I have one too many, I'd act ugly, as my grandmother would term it. And I'd start cussing and acting out and calling people out of their names and talking about their mom and their dad and their old grandmama. I talk about everybody I didn't know. I talk about, and I get ugly. And every time I'd act ugly, it would get back to my grandmother, because everybody in the community were raising you. There's an African proverb that says it takes a village to raise a child. We were raised by the community. People could get in your business. Teachers spank your butt. People in the community could do that. You can't do that today. You can't do that today, but I'm so grateful for my Southern upbringing. I get a letter from Uncle Sam, and I'm ready to get the hell out of Dodge. I do my basic in Fort Chaffee, Arkansas, and I ended up in Augsburg, Germany, strange customs, strange booze. And the first thing I say when I get off the ship, now I can drink like I want to. Them nosy neighbors can't dip in my business. I had no business. My business was about getting high. I'm young, I bounce back, I get drunk when I'm working. I'd go from the party to work, leave work, go back to the party. I bounce back. Water seeks its own level, and I meet people just like me from all over the United States in the Army. Now, I had met Dr. Martin Luther King when I was singing in the choir, and my pastor was a part of the movement. The movement was prior to Dr. King becoming prominent. Every Monday night, we met in a different church because the police would bomb the church or set it on fire or shoot at us. And I had met Dr. Martin Luther King way back when I was singing in my church choir. I get to Europe and I get to Germany, and there he is in the European paper on the front page, being beat up and thrown in jail. Now, there's nothing worse than a drunk with a cause. We are dangerous. We are dangerous. Sober, I could articulate the plight. And I had the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights and all of the things that we were struggling for. I could say that. But when I got drunk, it came out all wrong. My second sponsor would talk about an old B.B. King song. Same old story, same old song. Goes all right till it goes all wrong. And I wasn't born an alcoholic. It just really kills me when somebody gets to the point. I was an alcoholic long before I picked up a drink. How in the hell you become an alcoholic before you drink? I don't understand that one. You might have been crazy as hell, but you weren't no alcoholic. I didn't tell you, my sobriety date is July 26, 1978. I've been sober this past July 30 years. I got two home groups. Wednesday Night Unity is a group I drug in at. We meet Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock. I sell tickets. I'm the last to click out the lights. I mop coffee up when you waste coffee on the floor. VA Saturday, got a mop in my hand still. VA Saturday on the Saturday morning at 10:30, I'm there for 30 years, and I think I've moved about 3 seats in the whole room. The only thing I've ever done consistently in my life. I'm sponsored and I sponsor. My sponsor is Father Joe McMahon. My co-sponsor is Ed Mutum, and Big Ed is out of Davenport, Iowa. And the reason I chose Big Ed is because Big Ed calls me more than the guys I sponsor. He's in Davenport. I'm in Cleveland. Hello, this is Pastor Ed. And I just want to tell you I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. I work on the psych unit, and when I hear that some days, I say, thank God for Pastor Ed. He makes my day. He really, really does. This is the third sponsor I've had. Yeah. All right, back to Germany. I'm in Germany, and when we talk about drunk with a cause, angry people people who hate don't have fun. People who are going resentful don't have fun. Angry people don't have fun. You know, and I'm over at the EM Club one night, and the music is blaring, and everybody's shaking their booty, and they're having fun. I ain't having no fun. I just saw Dr. King on the front page of the paper being beat up, you know, drunk with a cause. And the more I drink, the more angry I get. And finally, I leaned over to one of the guys next to me, and I said, someone of another color, call us a name we don't like to be called. And one of the worst race riots erupted. I'm responsible. 3 people died that night, and I don't feel good about myself. Now, you had about 25 years of drinking with stuff like that happening, creating turmoil. But for the grace of God, I didn't go to jail. But for the grace of God, I didn't go to the penitentiary. Did things to go, did despicable things, did things that other people went to the penitentiary, did things that caused people to die. And when I got here, I knew that. You didn't have to tell me what I was. I knew what I was. Thank God for that, my home group. Thank God for that little white lady that started that group by the name of Marie Renner. She's dead, but she lives with me because she taught me something that was so invaluable. She taught me to love myself. She taught me that God would forgive me. She taught me how to ask God to forgive me. And I would say, God don't want to hear about it. She said, yes, he does. Ask him, did you ask God to forgive you? And I said, yes, but I don't believe it. She said, God forgives you. God loves you. I don't believe that. But you don't understand. Yes, we do understand. That's the beauty of this wonderful, wonderful fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. Anybody sitting out there listening to me, one of you have identified with everything I've said. Somebody out there is still hating. That's okay. Don't leave us. Don't leave us. Don't leave us. Because if you stay here and embrace those 12 steps, find a God of your understanding. Be able to be teachable and listen to somebody besides yourself, then you got a chance. And that's what I did. I remember my sponsor saying to me, I want you to get on your knees and ask God to thank God for that day of sobriety. And I wouldn't say God. It took me 5 years to say God. And I would say, whatever's watching over my sponsor, watch over me. Boom, I get up. He said, I want you to thank him at night for that day of sobriety. Whatever's watching over my sponsor, thank you for today, get up. And I remember in my 5th year when I said God. It was one of the best Christmases I'd had since I left Alabama. I have a gospel singing friend of mine by the name of Jean, and I called Jean, and I said, Jean, God did this, God did that. She said, no more higher power, no more higher power. Emphatically God. Now, you have to find that individually for yourself. Sponsors can't give you that. And it's a personal and very private relationship. Ain't none of your business, my relationship with God. You reap the benefit of that relationship by the way I treat you. By the way I treat you. And sometimes I see some of them around Cleveland, you know, they aren't very kind to people in the rooms. They're not earth people. And I was saying for them to don't block your blessings. You know, Patti LaBelle wrote a beautiful book, Don't Block Your Blessings, because sometimes you block your blessings. I never could have envisioned the places I have gone, the things I have done, the people I have met, and even envisioning something like being here this morning with you here by the lake, by the ocean, at this conference. I couldn't have imagined that. All I wanted was the madness to stop. All I wanted was to put the plug on the jug. And had I written the script, I would not have put this conference on that list. And it has been so many more things that have been on that list that I would not have dreamed that I would have done. I've been the best Bobby Moore that I can be, and I owe that to this fellowship. I can't live up to your expectations. I don't even try. I trust in God. I believe in God. I live the way that I believe God wants me to live. I treat people like I believe God treats us. And I treat you sometimes even when you're unkind to me. Even when you are unlovable, I am kind to you. And that's when you begin to know that this stuff is working in your life. It's not what you accomplish, it's what you overcome. Doesn't matter how many houses or how many Cadillacs out in your yard, how much gold around your neck. You ain't going to take none of that with you when you leave here. And if you're up there in Cleveland, you got a bunch of gold on you around your neck and they're putting you in the ground, I'm going to get a shovel. So what Bobby got a shovel for? I'm going to get some of that gold. Broke every law of God's and man's in the army. Should have went to jail in the army. Booze was ration, cigarettes was ration. I typed out the requisition for the booze and cigarettes, sold it to the Germans. I shipped the money home to Granny. I got money, I got bonds waiting on me in Birmingham, Alabama, and broke every law there. I get an honorable discharge, but for the grace of God. But for the grace of God. Stop off in New York, I got money, and I got money waiting on me. I party in New York, I get back to Birmingham, Alabama. I moved back in the room I went to high school out of. I pay no rent, I buy no food, and I'm drunk every day. Every decision I make is drug affected. You know, and I got a bunch of renter friends around me. You know, I pay the cost to be the boss. You don't act the way I want you to act. You don't say the things I want you to say because I want you to look up to me. You know, it's just that me trying to be somebody that a little bit of decency, even if I gotta buy it, even if I have to buy it, you know. And around this madness of me running back to the bank, taking out money and busting bonds, we got a letter from my mother's minister, and the gist of the letter, my mother was dying. A real pretty mother. And my grandmother said, go see about your mother. And I got on the train, and she's living in a place called South Pittsburgh, Tennessee. And I get to my mother's bedroom, and she ain't pretty no more. She's skin and bone, and she's dying of cancer. And I feel helpless, I feel hopeless, but I know how to spell relief. I sell my mother's house, and I go back to Alabama, and I watch her die a horrendous death, begging God to kill her. And at that point, I want nothing to do with this God that I had met in that Zion Star Baptist Church there in Birmingham, Alabama. Kill some prostitute, kill some drug addict, kill some alcoholic, not my mama. Now, that's not rational thinking, you know. And that's the beauty of being sober, connected to this program and connected to a God of your understanding. You begin to see things clearer. Johnny, I believe, talked about having new glasses, is that things become clear. I don't look at them through drug-affected eyes. I don't see things through the eyes of a little boy being molested. I see eyes through the eyes of a man who's in recovery, who says he's not going to be victimized anymore. I see things differently. You know, what a difference a day makes. You know, what a difference a day makes. I have no sisters, and my brother's in California with my dad. My grandmother's ill, cancer stinks and it smells, and I got to clean my mother, and she resents the hell out of me seeing her naked. Every day we fight, you know. And when my ritual's done, I'd clean her, clean the bed, put a clean gown on her, feed her. She'd fall asleep. I reach under the bed, grab my bottle, and I drink myself to sleep. And one Saturday, I leaned down to kiss her. She was no longer with us. And I remember a buddy of mine put his arms around me when he heard my mother was dead. He said, I know how you feel. I said, no, you don't. Your mama's still living. 30 years later in Alcoholics Anonymous, if I hadn't walked in your shoes, I don't say I know how you feel, empathize with you, love you till you learn to love yourself, give you a piece of money. Your mama died, call me. I know how you feel. And I drank 3 bottles of wine, and I went to that funeral to show them, the mythical them, how sad I was. And in essence, there were no tears left inside of me. The difference in me being in sobriety, going to my daddy's funeral with dignity, my wife, my daughter, my stepdaughter, my grandkids showed up, suited up, went to that funeral. I didn't drop a tear because I had done all I could do for the old man. I had no tears there. my mother, I screamed out. And I was so angry, and I hated. I'm just so mad at God. I'm a mama's boy. I am so angry. You know, my brother's in Cleveland and comes home for the funeral and suggested I come to Cleveland. I knew nothing about Cleveland, and I came to Cleveland early 60s. Some of you kids weren't born. They affectionately call it the plum. It was no plum when I got there. In the 60s, it was a bunch of dilapidated buildings, and my brother lived on Crawford Road and Huff Avenue, and there was a riot there back in the 60s, and I was in the midst of the Huff riots. But that apartment building housed nothing but prostitutes and hustlers and pimps and street people, and I became a part of. Now, I don't glorify in the streets, because anybody who's been out there in the streets know that there's no good end to it. I think for the young people, it's very intoxicating. Money, sex, and rock and roll. It's very alluring, but the end results, as my sponsor would always say to me, think the drink through. Think the drink through. You see that pretty blonde up there with that beautiful black dress on, talking about black velvet, smooth as silk. Follow the chick home if she's an alcoholic. She don't look like that picture when she gets home that night. She won't look like that picture, baby. If she's a drunk like us, she wouldn't look like that. Oh, God. I damn near died in the streets. I don't connect the dots. And what I mean by that, there's a puzzle that goes from 1 to 50, 1 to 100. You connect them, they make a complete picture. I don't equate it to my drinking or the unsavory people I hang out with. God stabbed me in my heart and liver in a bar called the Dome Bar on 105th between Euclid and Chester. 8.5 hours of surgery. I have a beautiful scar, and every time I take a shower, I know where the scar came from. Black nationalists beat me with a pistol, didn't shoot me, but beat me. 30 stitches in my head, blood in the ceiling, broken nose, and I'm crying going into surgery. Why are they doing this to me and I don't die? I've been shot, cut, stabbed at death's door 3 times. That man said I would die, and I did not die. And when in retrospect I look, I know God had a better plan for me. That's why I stay busy in Alcoholics Anonymous. I remember one time a lady said to me, you are too AA. I said, what the hell you mean? I'm too AA. How do you get to be too AA? You go all the time. Yes, I go, because God has given me a second chance. Yes, I go. And when somebody calls me at 4 o'clock, or one of my guys call me, get to the hospital, mommy is dying, I'm in there, ask my wife, I jump in the car and I sit there and hold one of my guys' hands while their mama died, while their mother died. And when one of them is contemplating drinking, don't you dare do nothing till I get there. Let's talk about it. I'm not God, but I'm going to see if we can talk about this thing before you do it. If I can't, then go knock yourself out. I can't make you stay here, but I'm going to do all I can to help you to stay here with us. It has been an incredible journey, an incredible journey. I don't die. And I remember I get calls from Alabama, and they tell me, you say, oh, June, your sister so-and-so used to sing in the choir. She died. And I looked up and said, why you take her? That was a good lady. Why don't you take me? But I know today God had a better plan for me, just like he has one for you. Just don't block your blessings. Just don't block your blessings. And I make it. I remember my introduction to Alcoholics Anonymous goes like this. I get sick on the street. I'm bleeding from the mouth and rectum. I don't go to ER. I don't find a physician. I had a buddy of mine that lived across from Cleveland Clinic. I'm drinking vodka, chasing it with beer. And as I go back to the John for the 30th or 40th time, by the commercial on Channel 43, do you have a drinking problem? Did I? What makes me call that number? I know nothing about Bill, Bob, AA, 12-step, big book, nothing. And I called that number with no intentions of staying sober. Dick Perez was our district office secretary and sent out my first sponsor. This short, bow-legged guy by the name of Herman Wade, alias Hooks. And I thank God I got sober when I got sober, and God sent me the man he sent me, because I don't hear all the rhetoric I hear around Alcoholics Anonymous today. One drunk, not all this philosophical stuff, not all this other stuff, what's the most important, blah, 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 blah. One drunk, like Bill Wilson did for Dr. Bob Smith. One drunk leaning down, reaching up, pulling me up. Picked me up, took me to Brecksville VA Hospital, handed me my first big book, and he says to me, there's a solution to our dilemma. I didn't know that. I thought I was going to die drunk. And every Sunday, my sponsor would come out and talk to me about himself and the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, what AA had done for him. He didn't tell me what you were doing, what other folk was doing, who was sleeping with who. He didn't. All he talked about was the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. Second man to affect my life for the rest of my life is a little short white guy I am hating. And he walks into the room, comes up to the podium. I'm sitting in pajamas like you guys are sitting out there listening to me at the Brecksville VA Hospital. And he introduces himself. My name is Phil Burkhardt, and I have 35 years of uninterrupted sobriety. And I lean over to the guy next to me. I say, he's telling a damn lie. Couldn't imagine nobody staying sober for 35 years. I couldn't stay sober for 35 minutes. But as I've also done in Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's an acquired quality, you listen to learn how to listen. I heard what that little giant said, got drunk, but I heard what he said. He asked us, what's the most important thing to us, and allowed us to respond. And the guys would say, wife, car, house, job, money, sex, and went down this list of things that were important to us. And when we were done, this is what that little giant said. And if there's anyone here new with us and struggling with whether you're going to stay here or not, if you let sobriety play preference in your life, if you put sobriety above the wife, the car, the house, the job, the money, the sex, because without it, you will lose all of those things that are near and dear to you. I knew that. I got out of the Army. Cat said, come to New York, Bobby, let me do this for you. I'll call you. And I got a glass of booze in my hand. Come out to L.A., Bobby, let me do this for you. I'll call you. And I got a glass of booze in my hand. Never went back to college until I got sober. Never held a job down till I got sober. Never got married till I got sober. Never became responsible till I got sober. Everything I am, everything I've done, everything I've accomplished, I owe it to God in this wonderful Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. An incredible journey. An incredible ride for me, for this little drunk. I like to say I stayed sober, but I didn't. I got slick in treatment. We were supposed to be taking antabuse that prevents you from drinking. And I'd get a pint of vodka, put some orange juice in it, put the vodka in my locker. I'd drink me some, go play some cards, and then I'd come to your meeting. And then I'm drinking, and when I drink, I get very proper, you know. So I'd come in your meetings full of booze, and I'm supposed to be in treatment, and they say, new man. I said, yes, right over here, you know. And I'd stand up, you know, I'm very proper then. I just want to thank you wonderful people for what you're doing. I just think it's wonderful, you know. And one night I overshot my mark again. The nurse couldn't wake me up. So they kicked me out of the program, and I'm back on the streets of Cleveland. I went back to college, and it wasn't to get a job. My GI Bill was about to run out. I got good money to go to school. And I had gone to school, and, you know, I get grandiose again. And I had a beautiful attaché case with my initials on it, and I played tennis, you know. Beautiful bag that housed my toiletry and my racket. And I remember one day, Cat said to me, he said, man, I can't wait till lunchtime so we can go out and have a drink. I said, say no more. Shall we go in the bathroom? Now I go in the bathroom and I open up my attaché case and it's full of wine. The guy said, you have no books, full of wine. So that was my story, full of wine. I came into Alcoholics Anonymous with that real beautiful bag. Some people talk about being on the streets and coming in with a brown paper bag. But I came in with that beautiful bag, with a bag full of dirty, filthy, nasty, dirty clothes. They stunk and I stunk. I don't bathe now, I stank. I don't shave now. And I'm not hustling anymore. I'm standing on the corner begging for 50 cents to get a bottle of wine. I've done everything on the streets but die. I'm homeless, I'm helpless. Nobody in my family is speaking to me, and I'm a hopeless, helpless drunk. I remember being in an apartment building on Chester Avenue for about 2 weeks, and I couldn't get sober and I couldn't get drunk. I just was like suspended in midair. I itched, I saw things, and it's like I'm suspended in midair. And I finally tell one of the guys in there, I said, man, I got to get out of here. I feel like I'm losing my mind, but I'm homeless. And he said, I know where we can go. And we went down to the City Mission downtown by the Justice Center. They make you sing for your supper. Now, that's an incredible sight to see a bunch of winos trying to sing hymns. Trying to sing hymns. You think you want to see something funny, and we vibrating, shaking, you know. Trying to get upstairs to get a bed, you know. We go through this ritual and eat these lousy donuts and this lousy food and this lousy coffee. And they take us upstairs and they make us disrobe and they spray us in our clothes for bugs. And that hurt. That hurt. And I lay in that bunk naked. What happened? What went wrong? All I want to do is have a little fun, then I go back to school. All I want to do is have a little fun, and then I settle down. I got old in the streets and didn't realize it. 4 o'clock the next morning, they put us out, and I ended up at the hospital where I've been for the last 23 years, St. Vincent Charity Hospital. One of the oldest treatment centers there is Rosary Hall. Sister Ignatia came up from St. Thomas, where she worked with the good Dr. Bob Smith. And very historical thing there. But I go up on the second floor where Rosary Hall is, and like the television set, a priest comes out of his office. Why didn't he come 10 minutes early or 10 minutes later? It's like God is ordering my steps. You know, and he puts all these pieces together and just guides me to you wonderful people. He orders the steps. The priest comes out of his office, Father Gregory French. I didn't know who he was. I just saw the collar, and I said, Father, help me. I'm an alcoholic. I'd been to your meetings, and I got drunk. I've been in treatment many times, and I got drunk. I would go to detox because I'm homeless, and I got drunk. But that morning, with Father Gregory French, I surrendered. I had a buddy of mine by the name of Vic Zublik, and Vic has been long gone was a wonderful member of Alcoholics Anonymous there in Cleveland, Ohio. And every time I chaired a meeting, I'd get Vic to lead for me. And it wasn't what Vic said, it was what Vic did. This is how you get to Alcoholics Anonymous, and he'd throw up both hands. Surrender. Surrender. Arms are too short to box with Mr. Alcohol. The good Father sent me to Metro Hospital. There were no beds. I ended up at Harbor Light, the Salvation Army, 18th and Prospect, in the detox center there, where it began for me, my journey in the Alcoholics Anonymous. I got detoxed there, and I went up to a 3-quarter-way house on the 6th floor, and I began to work this program and to embrace this program from that detox center. I remember I walked into that center, and there was a woman there who knew me when the money was good, and I looked good, and I smelled good. And she said, hi, baby, how are you? I thought you were dead. And she reached for this bag of filthy, dirty, nasty clothes. And I snatched the bag away from her. I didn't want her to see what was in that bag. She took those clothes and she washed them. Impressed me. I finished that detox phase and I went up on the 6th floor, and every morning that God let the sun shine. Every morning I got up, I'd go down to that detox center, and when a drunk would puke on the floor, puke on himself, puke on me. May I wash your clothes? And I've been giving back to Alcoholics Anonymous ever since. People kill me when they say, I don't know how to show my gratitude. Gratitude is an action word, just like love. You can't tell me you love me and you talk about me and you're always putting stumbling blocks, or you got a knife in my back. That's not love. That's not the way God loves us. God loves us unconditionally. And that's what Alcoholics Anonymous has taught me, that I've got to love you even when you are unlovable. The gift. And someone talked about the gift comes from the giver. I truly believe that. Everything that I am and everything that I have done, I owe it to God in Alcoholics Anonymous. I got busy in this program and found out where my sponsor would be. And I ended up going over to a meeting and walking into that meeting, rode 2 buses to find my sponsor. My first sponsor died shortly after I got sober. And I went to the funeral. I had a hard time when I drank with people dying in my life. But I went to that funeral, and I reached over in the casket, and I touched him. And I rubbed his hand and silently thanked God for allowing this little giant to be in my life. God has put more and others in my life, but he started me on this journey. He started me on this journey. I did my first 5th step, and I didn't do it all. And a lot of you, I'm sure you did like I was going to hold on to something. I was not going to give it all. I held on. And something happened in my 5th year that I had a traumatic thing going on in my life, and I got boxed in, and I needed to talk to somebody. I need to purge. I need to get rid of. And enters my second sponsor. And I met for a week and dumped on him. And finally, when I finished dumping and purging, and I said to him, Rudy, would you be my sponsor? He said, I'd be honored. My second sponsor. My second sponsor believed in everything in life as a celebration. Live each day as if it's going to be your last. My sponsor was not sick, went into our doctor's office, had an aneurysm, and died. He had said if anything was to happen to him, 3 people were to be notified. Barry Brooks, our doctors, he died in Barry's office, giving him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Bobby Moore, I'm on the 2nd floor of St. Vincent Charity Hospital. The phone rings. Barry says to me, are you standing? Yes. Sit down. Rudy is with me, and he just died. I dropped the phone. I go over to Father Joe McMahon, who's my current sponsor, and I tell Father Joe that my sponsor just had died. Rudy had said, anything happens to me, call Barry Brooks, Bobby Moore, or Father Joe McMahon. I don't believe things just happen by chance in Alcoholics Anonymous. I was supposed to be here this morning. Lee was supposed to lead that meeting. Jay was supposed to be here. You were supposed to be here. I just don't believe things happen by chance in Alcoholics Anonymous. I got married. Ooh. Well, I got to say something nice. The woman is here with me. Come on. Jesus Christ. I remember I had about 3 months sober, and you people do crazy things to new people because you really don't know what you've gotten into when you hear some of this weird stuff when you're new. And I'm new, and a guy named Amos Lewis, who's a minister now, took me to a meeting way on the west side. And the guy was very angry and very bitter. Whatever you do, don't let your wife go to that damn Al-Anon. I don't hear too well, I married one of them damn Al-Anons, There are days I want to kill this woman, But they are so cute, I'll tell my wife, I said, you shouldn't have done that. She said, I'll make amends later. Taking your inventory, you shouldn't have done that. From that marriage is my beautiful daughter who was raised with you. We took her to Al-Anon. We took her to every convention, every world conference, every place I spoke. And then when people call and ask me to come speak, is Ashley coming? You know, beautiful, tall, model, finished barbers on, just a gorgeous girl who I really wanted to commit murder on when she was a teenager. And some of the guys, I had really planned on killing them. I really did. I have a friend of mine who's a minister and an ex-alcoholic and drug addict. He said, you can't do that. I said, yes, I can. Oh, God, they send you through something. She's the spitting image of me and all of my negative ways she has. She has a mind of her own. Don't you dare tell her she can't do it. I took her down to the University of Akron to check her in, and she kept heeing and hawing. And she didn't want to go to, so I said, well, you want to go locally? Well, I'll go next year. Well, okay. So Daddy had some money put up for her. So she keeps heeing and hawing. I keep paying my bills off. The hardest thing for me in sobriety, I had to put her out. I had to put my baby out. And she disrespected my home, and the guy she was dealing with disrespected my home. Not only did he disrespect my home, he broke into my home and robbed us, and stole all my jewelry and stuff like that, and that's not important. But I felt very violated, my wife and I. And she would not stop, and she would not stop seeing him, and it came down to me saying, you're going to have to go. I said, I can't keep you away from him. I want him to come and pick you up. I hope he has a place for you to stay. And she left. And I'm riding down the freeway, and I can't see for crying. And I get on the phone, and I call my buddy Walter, who's a minister, and someone who just can calm me down. And I hope you got somebody like that in your life. Because Walter said, pull over, Bobby. Wherever you are, pull over, find a place. And he said, let's talk. He said, Ashley is defiant, and God is going to have to spank her. And like the prodigal son, she'll come back home. And she did. And she came back, and she didn't want house rules, and she wanted to be a grown woman, and she left again. I haven't heard from her in about 3 weeks, and we just pray, and we keep hoping that she is God's child, and we keep praying that God has put his arms around her and keeps holding her. We brought her up right. We gave her, she could say the Serenity Prayer and the Our Father long before she went to school. So the values are in there. I pray to God she doesn't wet it. But if she does, and if she needs us, she's aware where we are. She knows her mommy and her daddy are in Alcoholics Anonymous and Al-Anon. We just had back-to-back stuff one time. And you don't drink. You can't drink. You know, my wife had a lumpectomy, and we go through chemo and all of that. And then my daddy died. And, you know, it's back to back, back to back. And all you do is you get on your knees and you ask God to help you through it. And I firmly believe that if God brings you to it, he'll take you through it. I just believe that. If he brings you to it, he's going to bring you through it. Been an incredible journey in spite of the bad times. And I want to thank Alcoholics Anonymous for giving me my dignity back. I want to thank AA for giving me my joy back. I want to thank Alcoholics Anonymous for teaching me how to love unconditionally. Those two men made an incredible impact upon my life in regards to me developing as a man, as a father, as a good brother, as a good friend. And they taught me so much. My first sponsor would talk about MAP, meetings, activity, and prayer. Action is the name of the game, Bobby Moore. Get in the middle of the bed. And when you get to ripping and running and going and doing, to remember, halt. An alcoholic is not to get too hungry, too angry, too lonely, or too tired. I told you about Rudy, an incredible man in my life. My current sponsor has dementia, and I go out every other Sunday maybe to see him when I'm in town. doesn't know anything from the past, doesn't know anybody, but he knows me. And he'll look at me and he said, don't you stop coming to see me. So I got to go take him to see Mama Mia. We're going to go see Mama Mia. I'm not only daddy to Ashley, I helped raise Betty, one of Betty's son, who is going through a crisis in his marriage and calls me every morning. Every morning he's wrestling with who God is, and I'm just there for him. My stepdaughter is beautiful with a grandson that calls me Grandpa Moore, and my stepson has 2 stepchildren and a son called Tank, and I'm Grandpa to Tank. Tank looks like he should be playing for the Cleveland Browns right now. So I got me a little Shih Tzu, a little black and white Shih Tzu. Johnny talked about his dog. I'm going to talk about my dog. Talk about my dog, Johnny. Him name's Bandit. And he runs the house. Ashley said, Mommy said you got a dog to replace me. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this celebration. Thank you for just deeming me worthy to be among you. Thank you. I just feel blessed. It's not because I'm such a great speaker or not because I'm such a great person. I believe what God has for me, it is for me. And he sits this all and maps all of this out. But you allowed me to be a part of your celebration. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. My Hooks would talk about map, but Phil Burkhart told me one thing, and I got to share this with you, that I never let go and let my guys know that I sponsored. He told me he was a guy at 35 years when I met him, knew Bob, knew Bill, and he said to me, Bobby, let no one sway you. My first anniversary lead, let no one sway you. 12 steps are our program, and he broke them down to me. Step 1 through 3 is acceptance, 4 through 6 is house cleaning, 7 through 9 is building, and 10 through 12 are our maintenance steps. You got to give it away to keep it. Couldn't understand that concept 30 years ago, but today it's crystal clear. I don't drink, I don't drug, I go to meetings on a regular basis. I'm sponsored. I believe in God. I'm cemented in this program, and one hand in God and the other in this program. I can't go wrong. I cannot go wrong. So I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank Jay and the committee for having Betty and I down. We met some wonderful people. We love you. We love you. We love you. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind always be at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face and the rain fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hands. Thank you.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with, and it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right, but I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.